The year was 2473, and humanity had spread its wings across the stars. Though Earth was still seen as a quaint, almost forgotten planet in the grand galactic order, human colonies had multiplied, stretching out into the Milky Way like an intricate web of life and progress. Humanity was a growing force, but still viewed as a nuisance, a species to be tolerated, not respected. It was a galaxy dominated by the Galactic Empire, an ancient and tyrannical empire that controlled vast stretches of space with an iron fist, ruthless and unforgiving in its desire for power. The empire, with its superior technology and centuries of unchallenged dominance, considered the human race little more than an inconvenience. Ambassador Alan Thompson had been chosen to represent humanity's bid for peace. An exceptional diplomat, Thompson had a history of resolving conflicts between species that were supposed to be irreconcilable. His calm demeanor, intellect, and subtle negotiation tactics had earned him a position of immense prestige within the United Earth Federation. Humanity's leaders hoped that Thompson could broker an agreement that would allow the human colonies to maintain their independence while avoiding war with the Empire, a war that, given the power imbalance, could wipe humanity from the stars in an instant. Thompson's mission was delicate. The Empire had made it clear that they would not tolerate any form of human resistance to their rule. The Empire viewed humanity's push for independence as a threat to their established order. There were whispers among the human leadership that the Empire was preparing for a final assault on the human colonies, a move that could see Earth itself reduced to nothing but a historical footnote. So, Thompson was sent to negotiate peace terms, to delay the inevitable. The hope was that he could find some common ground, some middle path that would allow for a future where both the Empire and humanity could coexist, albeit in a delicate, sometimes strained peace. Thompson arrived at the neutral station, a massive, ancient structure orbiting a dying star on the outskirts of the Empire's territory. It was a location chosen not only for its neutrality but also for its history. It had once been a site of major peace talks between many galactic powers, though those talks had long since dissolved into bitter rivalries. It was a fitting place for humanity's representative to make his stand. The Galactic Empire was represented by its High Council, an assembly of beings far older than humanity's recorded history. These beings, their forms often incomprehensible to the human eye, had watched the rise and fall of countless civilizations. They saw themselves as the supreme rulers of the galaxy, with a divine right to shape the fates of lesser species. The Emperor, Azarath the Eternal, was an entity unlike anything humanity had ever encountered. He was not a being of flesh and bone, but an ancient force, a combination of pure energy and technology that had existed for eons. His very presence in the council room was enough to make the air itself vibrate with power, a reminder of just how far the Empire's reach extended. Thompson had met with representatives of the Empire on several occasions before, but this meeting was different. It was more important. The stakes were higher, and Thompson knew that the Empire's patience with humanity was wearing thin. He understood the dangers, but he was resolute. He was the face of humanity's best hope for peace. The negotiations began with a certain air of cordiality. Thompson was a seasoned negotiator, and he knew how to read a room, how to identify the smallest shift in posture or tone that might indicate a change in mood. The initial discussions were civil, but there was a palpable tension in the air. The Empire's representatives, humanoid in form but with their bodies subtly altered by centuries of genetic manipulation, listened with impassive expressions. They showed no outward sign of interest in the human proposals. But Thompson could feel the weight of their disdain, the quiet arrogance that pervaded their every word. "We recognize the human colonies have spread across the stars," one of the Empire's ambassadors stated, his voice cold and distant. "But you are nothing more than a fledgling species. You are outmatched, outclassed, and your resistance is laughable." Thompson did not flinch. He had heard such words before. "I disagree," he replied. "Humanity has faced adversity throughout its history and survived. We have something you cannot measure, our adaptability. Our resilience." The room fell silent for a moment. The Empire's emissaries exchanged looks, their thoughts unreadable. Azarath, who had remained silent for the duration of the conversation, finally spoke, his voice a thunderous, disembodied echo that seemed to come from everywhere and nowhere at once. "Your adaptability means nothing," Azarath intoned. "You are nothing compared to the might of the Galactic Empire. Your defiance will be crushed. Your colonies will bow to us, or they will be wiped from existence." Thompson's pulse quickened, but he did not show fear. He had anticipated this. He had known that the Empire would not simply accept humanity's terms. But he also knew that they couldn't afford to be too hasty. The negotiation could not be rushed. Yet, as the hours wore on, it became increasingly clear that the Empire had no interest in any sort of agreement. Their interest lay in domination, in the eradication of any species that dared question their authority. Thompson's mind raced as he considered his next move. He couldn't back down. Not now. He had to show the Empire that humanity would not be intimidated, that Earth's colonies would not submit to their will. Without warning, Azarath's voice echoed once more, this time with a chilling finality. "Your words are meaningless, human. Your presence here is an insult. You think you can negotiate with us? You are weak, and you will pay for your arrogance." The words sent a ripple of shock through Thompson's mind, but he stood firm. "I am not here to beg for mercy. I am here to ask for peace." Azarath's laughter rang out, hollow and cold. "You speak of peace, but there will be no peace for you, Thompson. You and your species are beneath us. This charade ends now." And then, without warning, Thompson was seized. His arms were bound, his body dragged from the council chamber before he could protest. He struggled, but the grip of the Empire's soldiers was unyielding. He was thrown to the floor, and before he could speak, the order was given. Azarath's voice boomed again. "Execute him." The shock was immediate. The room froze, the tension reaching its peak. Thompson's heart raced, his body frozen in disbelief. The diplomats surrounding him did not protest. They merely watched as he was dragged away to face the Emperor's judgment. His mind raced, but there was nothing he could do. The Empire's wrath had come, and there was no escape. As Thompson's body was dragged to the execution chamber, the full weight of the Empire's power was on display. His death was not to be a private matter. It was to be a public demonstration of the Empire's dominance, a warning to all who might dare resist their rule. It was in that moment, as the cold metal doors of the chamber closed behind him, that Thompson realized the true nature of the Empire. They would not stop at diplomacy. They would not stop until humanity was nothing more than dust beneath their heel. The last thing he saw before his life was taken was the cold, indifferent gaze of Azarath, the ruler of all, the eternal power that humanity could never hope to overcome. The news of Ambassador Thompson's brutal execution spread like wildfire across human colonies. The message from the Empire was loud and clear: humanity was nothing but an insignificant speck in the grand galactic order, and any attempts to challenge their dominance would be crushed. The brutality with which they executed Thompson, a diplomat who had only sought peace, was seen as the final insult to human pride. Yet, what the Empire failed to account for was the unyielding resilience of humanity, the very trait they had long underestimated. Back on Earth, the response was swift and unequivocal. While the rest of the galaxy might have seen the death of Thompson as just another event in the Empire's endless campaign of conquest, humanity saw it as a call to arms. The United Earth Federation, once divided in its approach to interstellar diplomacy, now had a singular purpose: vengeance. Earth's government immediately shifted into emergency mode, but it wasn't just military command centers that sprang to life. In secret, deep beneath the surface of Earth's oldest cities, a covert faction had been operating for years, preparing for such a moment. These were not diplomats, but former soldiers, scientists, engineers, and hackers, an elite group formed with a singular mission: to prepare for the day the Empire would make its fatal mistake. They had been waiting for a catalyst. They had been preparing for war long before the death of Thompson, and now, that war was about to begin. The faction's leader, General Sarah Knox, was a seasoned veteran with decades of experience. She had seen the Empire's tactics firsthand during her time in the military, and she understood the level of devastation they could bring. But she also knew that humanity had a unique advantage: its adaptability, its capacity to innovate under pressure, and, above all, its relentless pursuit of survival. Nox's eyes burned with a fierce determination as she met with her team, a group of humanity's finest minds and battle-hardened warriors. They were ready. They had been preparing for years, and the time for subtlety was over. The Empire had drawn first blood, and now Earth would retaliate with everything it had. In an underground facility, one of Earth's most brilliant engineers, Dr. Marcus Leong, activated a set of hidden systems that had been in development for decades. These systems weren't just a collection of weapons, but the result of reverse engineering the best technology the Empire had to offer. The humans had learned, through quiet observation and desperate ingenuity, to replicate the advanced weaponry that the Empire used. But they didn't stop there. They had gone further, creating weapons unlike anything the Empire had ever seen, powered by a blend of human creativity and the stolen secrets of alien technology. The first phase of retaliation came in the form of Earth's hidden fleet. Long believed to be a myth, the fleet was a collection of warships equipped with cutting-edge, experimental technologies. The ships, which had been silently constructed over the years, emerged from Earth's orbit in a display of power that the Empire never saw coming. The ships were fast, sleek, and armed with devastating energy weapons that were capable of disabling entire fleets in a single strike. But it wasn't just their firepower that set them apart, it was the neural-linked AI systems that powered them, systems built by humanity's finest minds and fueled by human ingenuity. The Empire, distracted by its own arrogance, was caught off guard. The human fleet, which the Empire had assumed to be an irrelevant force, unleashed a devastating barrage of energy weapons on the Empire's border planets. These were not just ordinary attacks, they were precise, calculated strikes designed to cripple the Empire's resources and infrastructure. With each attack, the Empire's arrogance began to crack. The first wave of human strikes shattered their sense of invincibility. But Earth's retaliation wasn't confined to just military might. Humanity, known for its creativity and unpredictability, had developed new forms of warfare. One of the most terrifying of these was the use of weaponized emotions, a tactic that had been tested in Earth's most classified laboratories. Humanity had developed a form of neurotech that amplified human emotions to a devastating degree. The technology allowed human soldiers to project their feelings of anger, fear, and vengeance directly onto their enemies. It wasn't just psychological warfare, it was a form of mind control. The Empire's soldiers, who had been trained to remain stoic and emotionless, were suddenly overwhelmed by the raw, unfiltered emotions of humanity. Fear, rage, and confusion coursed through the Empire's ranks, disrupting their ability to fight. The Empire, whose soldiers had always prided themselves on their control and discipline, found themselves caught in an emotional maelstrom. As the human forces moved deeper into Empire territory, they discovered that this new form of warfare was more effective than they could have imagined. The Empire's once unshakable confidence was replaced by panic. It was as if the very foundations of their rule were being eroded, piece by piece, by the power of human emotions. Meanwhile, deep within the Empire's inner sanctum, Azarath watched as the tide began to turn. He had always considered humanity a primitive species, one whose mind was easily manipulated and whose will could be broken by force. But what he was seeing now was beyond anything he had ever anticipated. The humans had somehow unlocked a power within themselves, a power that the Empire had never accounted for. Azarath's council, composed of his most trusted advisors, began to panic. The human attacks were not random. They were coordinated, intelligent, and, most troubling of all, effective. The once unified empire was beginning to fracture, and the seeds of fear had been sown. Despite their advanced technology, the empire's internal systems began to crumble under the weight of human innovation. The humans had infiltrated their networks, hacking into the very systems that controlled the empire's fleets, causing chaos and confusion within the empire's command structure. The once pristine efficiency of the empire's war machine was faltering. In response, Azarath called upon his most loyal generals, but it was clear that the Empire's response was no longer coordinated. The once feared fleets of the Empire began to retreat, unable to withstand the devastating assault of Earth's hidden fleet and the mysterious new weapons humanity had unleashed. But it wasn't just the military that was affected. The very political structure of the Empire began to show cracks. There were whispers of rebellion from within, from species that had once been subjugated by the Empire, now emboldened by the human resistance. On Earth, the leaders of the United Earth Federation watched with a mixture of pride and determination as their forces pressed forward. The death of Ambassador Thompson had been the spark, but now it had grown into a fire that could not be extinguished. The fight was far from over, but humanity's vengeance had only just begun. With every victory, humanity's reputation shifted. No longer were they seen as weak and insignificant. They were now viewed as a force to be reckoned with, a species that would never again be underestimated. The Empire had made a grave mistake. They had killed one human diplomat, thinking it would be the end of the matter. But in doing so, they had ignited a war that would change the course of history. The human race had been pushed to the brink, but it was now clear that when pushed, humanity would fight not just for survival, but for vengeance, and they would not rest until the Empire paid for their arrogance. The war had taken a dark and relentless turn. Humanity's response to the Empire's brutality was no longer an isolated, desperate reaction, it was a calculated campaign of vengeance. Earth's fleet, emboldened by its early successes, now pressed deeper into the heart of the Empire's domain. Each victory fueled the fire of retribution. Yet, as humanity's forces advanced, it became clear that their ultimate goal was far greater than mere payback, it was a statement. A demonstration to the entire galaxy that humanity would never again be a meek or submissive species. The Empire, with its centuries of dominance, had failed to recognize the depth of the human spirit. Now, they would learn the cost of that mistake. General Knox, the leader of Earth's military operations, was fully aware of the gravity of their mission. She had witnessed firsthand the horrors the Empire was capable of, and now she was determined to ensure that every inch of their power was torn down. Her eyes were cold with purpose as she sat at the helm of the human fleet, giving orders with surgical precision. No longer was it about just surviving. Now, it was about making the Empire feel every ounce of the pain they had inflicted. She knew that every strike, every successful mission, would not only devastate the Empire's forces but would also undermine their very foundation. They would break the Empire's confidence, unravel their sense of invulnerability, and expose their weakness for all to see. As the human fleet surged forward, it became clear that the Empire's forces were not prepared for this kind of war. Humanity had fought not just with advanced weapons, but with intelligence, creativity, and a profound understanding of the emotional toll of battle. Earth's forces, powered by their neurotech weaponry, continued to sow chaos within the Empire's ranks. Soldiers who had once been trained to suppress their emotions now found themselves struggling against the human onslaught of amplified rage, fear, and sorrow. The Empire's soldiers began to break, their once pristine discipline unraveling under the onslaught of humanity's emotional warfare. The Empire's greatest strength, its military hierarchy and rigid control, was starting to show cracks. Generals, once proud and unyielding, now found themselves questioning the legitimacy of their empire. Rumors spread like wildfire within the Empire's ranks, rumors of internal discord, whispers of rebellion from within the lower ranks, and stories of entire battalions that had turned their backs on the Empire's cause. The human offensive was no longer confined to the battlefield, it was infiltrating the Empire's very structure, eroding the loyalty of those who had once served it faithfully. The realization set in among the Empire's leadership that humanity had discovered their greatest vulnerability. It wasn't their technology or their weapons, it was their unity, the very thing that had kept the Empire together for centuries, that was now crumbling. While the battle for the Empire's outer worlds raged on, the true objective was clear. Earth's forces had one singular target in mind, the heart of the Empire itself. The Empire's homeworld, Azarath's seat of power, was a symbol of their strength and dominance. To strike at the core of the Empire would not just bring an end to the war, it would deliver the message that humanity could no longer be silenced, no longer be treated as anything less than a powerful, independent force. The path to Azarath's world was long and fraught with danger, but humanity's resolve was unshakable. General Knox knew that this final push would demand everything they had. There would be no room for mistakes. As the fleet moved toward the Empire's homeworld, Earth's leaders were already planning the next phase of the conflict. It was no longer enough to simply destroy military targets or cripple the Empire's infrastructure, they needed to send a message to the galaxy. Behind the front lines, the hackers and engineers of Earth's secret faction continued their work. They had already successfully infiltrated the Empire's systems, corrupting key military networks and destabilizing their communications. But they weren't done. The final stage of their plan was underway, a digital strike that would cripple the Empire's ability to coordinate any kind of counterattack. As Earth's forces drew closer to the heart of the Empire, their AI systems, designed with the best of human creativity, continued to wreak havoc. They corrupted the Empire's data banks, turning the Empire's own technology against them. What the Empire had thought was their greatest strength, their advanced communication and surveillance systems, had become their greatest liability. Humanity had learned to exploit their every weakness. As the final days of the campaign drew near, Earth's forces began to prepare for the ultimate assault. The human fleet gathered in the shadows of the Empire's outermost defenses, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. General Knox gave the order. The fleet surged forward, a wave of destruction fueled by vengeance and justice. The Empire's outer worlds fell one by one, their defenses obliterated by the sheer force of humanity's resolve. But the final battle, the battle for the Empire's homeworld, was still ahead. This would be the ultimate test of humanity's strength, and they were ready. At the heart of the Empire's homeworld, Azarath stood in his throne room, looking down upon the sprawling city below. He had watched the human forces tear through his empire, but he had believed that his capital, his homeworld, would remain untouchable. The very thought of humans reaching his doorstep seemed impossible. Yet here they were, on the cusp of breaching his fortress. He had underestimated them, as had every ruler before him. But this time, there would be no escape. His army was vast, his defenses impregnable, or so he believed. But what Azarath didn't know was that humanity's greatest weapon was not just their ingenuity or their weapons, it was their willingness to sacrifice everything for their cause. Humanity's thirst for justice was unstoppable, and the death of Ambassador Thompson had lit a fire that could not be extinguished. The final assault on the Empire's homeworld would prove to be the most devastating blow of all. The truth was simple, humanity had never been weak. They had simply been biding their time, preparing for the moment when they would no longer be underestimated. Azarath's arrogance had sealed his fate, and soon, the Empire would realize that their reign was over. The last battle was upon them. As Earth's forces descended upon the Empire's capital, the galaxy watched in awe. The humans had come not just to fight, but to win. This was the moment that would define the future of the galaxy. The Empire, once invincible, was about to fall. And humanity would emerge from the ashes, stronger and more unified than ever before. The final battle had arrived, and the skies above Azarath were alive with the deafening roar of human warships, each one a testament to the ingenuity of Earth's engineers and military minds. Humanity's final offensive had not only shattered the Empire's outer defenses but had come to the heart of their empire itself. The battle that would decide the fate of the galaxy was unfolding. Azarath, once thought to be an impregnable fortress, now stood on the brink of collapse. Yet, despite the chaos around him, the ruler of the Empire remained as defiant as ever, stubbornly holding on to the belief that his empire could withstand any challenge, even from humanity. But Azarath had underestimated the sheer will of the human spirit. The human fleet, now united in purpose and strength, pressed forward with unyielding resolve. It wasn't just a military force attacking, they were a symbol of everything the Empire had wrongfully dismissed. The Empire had seen humanity as nothing more than a nuisance, a primitive species whose growth they could easily stifle. They had mocked humanity's resilience, their capacity for ingenuity, and their drive to overcome impossible odds. And yet, with each passing day, the Empire saw more and more of their own power unravel. The human fleet, while smaller in numbers, had struck with surgical precision, tearing through Empire defenses and leaving entire worlds in disarray. And the chaos was not just physical, it was psychological. The human forces had perfected a form of psychological warfare that no one had anticipated. Earth's advanced neurotech systems, designed to amplify emotions and turn them into weapons, had crippled the Empire's soldiers. Fear, rage, despair, all emotions once thought of as weaknesses, were now tools that tore through the Empire's disciplined ranks. Soldiers who had once believed in their Empire's invincibility were suddenly questioning their very purpose. Loyalty faltered, and once strong alliances fractured. Even the high-ranking officials of the Empire began to show signs of cracks in their confidence, each one wondering whether they had been wrong to underestimate humanity's potential. In the midst of this psychological unraveling, General Knox led her forces with relentless precision. She knew that their strike had to be swift, overwhelming, and decisive. The human fleet, equipped with cutting-edge technology and backed by humanity's unyielding determination, was closing in on the heart of the Empire. The final showdown would not be about a war of attrition. It would be a fight for the very soul of the galaxy. And humanity, fueled by vengeance, was prepared to claim that soul. As Earth's warships approached Azarath's orbit, their weapons primed and ready, the Empire scrambled to mount a defense. They had no idea what to expect from this final assault, no understanding of how far humanity had advanced or what new technologies they had developed. But what the Empire didn't realize was that the greatest weapon the humans had wasn't their advanced tech or their fleet of warships. It was their ability to adapt, to innovate in ways the Empire couldn't even imagine. The human fleet moved as a singular force, not just because of their military prowess, but because they had learned the Empire's weaknesses and exploited them. The final assault was not just a military engagement, it was a statement. It was the embodiment of everything the Empire had feared and ignored. Humanity was not the inferior species they had once believed. They had endured, they had grown, and they had learned. The once dismissed human diplomat, Ambassador Alan Thompson, had died for this moment. His sacrifice, his legacy, had become the spark that ignited a firestorm. And now, the Empire would pay the price for underestimating humanity's resilience. As the human forces closed in on Azarath, the Empire's leadership realized they had no more time to react. Their communications were in disarray, their fleet in disarray, and their morale shattered. The Empire's once mighty military was beginning to fracture under the weight of their own fears, the very emotions humanity had weaponized against them. And then came the final blow. The human fleet, equipped with a virus designed by their brightest minds, launched a cyber attack on the Empire's central systems. The Empire's once untouchable network crumbled. The warships lost communication, their guidance systems malfunctioned, and their weapons systems failed. The Empire's once mighty fleet was now a disorganized mess, crippled by a single, well-timed strike from humanity's best. In the midst of this chaos, General Knox led the final charge. Her fleet descended upon Azarath, the capital planet of the Empire, and it was here that the true nature of humanity's vengeance would be realized. The human forces landed on the surface of Azarath with one singular goal, to confront the Empire's ruler. Azarath, in his arrogance, had believed that his fortress could withstand any assault. But now, standing on his homeworld, he was about to see how wrong he had been. The human forces fought their way through the Empire's remaining defenses, pushing forward with a single-minded purpose. There was no room for mercy, no room for hesitation. Every human soldier knew the importance of this moment. They were fighting not just for their survival, but for the future of humanity. They were fighting to prove that they were not a species to be conquered, they were a species to be feared. Finally, after hours of brutal fighting, General Knox and her forces reached the heart of the Empire's capital, the very throne room of Azarath himself. The final confrontation was at hand. The Empire's ruler, once so confident in his position, stood before them. Azarath was a being of unimaginable power, his age far surpassing any human life, and his arrogance had been his greatest weakness. He believed that humanity was nothing more than an irritant, something to be crushed beneath the weight of his empire. But now, as he faced the human forces that had arrived at his doorstep, he saw the truth: humanity was not a species to be underestimated. "Do you understand now?" General Knox said, her voice unwavering, her eyes locked onto Azarath. "Your empire is finished. You should never have underestimated humanity." Azarath's eyes narrowed, his anger rising. "You think this is the end?" he hissed. "I am Azarath, ruler of the galaxy. I will not fall to you. I will crush your kind, just as I've crushed every species before you." "No," General Knox said, her voice steady. "You're the one who's already fallen. You just haven't realized it yet." And in that moment, the truth was undeniable: humanity had won. The Empire, once a dominant force in the galaxy, was crumbling. Their arrogance, their belief in their own superiority, had blinded them to the one thing they could never defeat: the indomitable will of the human race. The final victory was not just a military one, it was a victory of spirit, a victory of humanity's refusal to be silenced. The galaxy would never forget the lesson it had learned: never again would humanity be underestimated. Never again would they be seen as weak. From this moment on, humanity would be a force to be reckoned with, a force that would forever change the course of galactic history.